Every time it looks like municipalities and police forces will calm down, think big picture, and let the Occupy movement either level off or grow of its own accord, they instead play right into the protests' publicity hands. In our third story, 29 occupiers were arrested in Nashville overnight. Doesn't sound like anything different. But even though the arrests themselves were relatively peaceful, the justification for the arrests has been severely called into question. 9 a.m. Thursday, the Office of the General Counsel of the Department of General Services informed the members of Occupy Nashville that a new curfew had been enacted for the park during the hours of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and eviction of the park could begin at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. came and went without incident, but at 3 a.m., an announcement came from a police bullhorn that in 10 minutes the police would be entering the park and any remaining occupiers would be arrested. Around 24 protesters left without incident. Another 29 remained. After 10 minutes, 75 state troopers began arresting the remaining occupiers. The occupiers linked arms in an attempt to peacefully resist, but they were eventually pulled apart anyway and arrested, brought to Davidson County Jail. Once there, the night court commissioner Tom Nelson refused to sign the warrants, citing a lack of probable cause.
I am not criticizing the Highway Patrol, but you have no lawful basis to arrest or charge those people. For 3 weeks, they've sat up there and protested under no admonition whatsoever that they're violating state policy with regard to camping out on Legislative Plaza or that they're committing a crime. When the state issued its memorandum today imposing a curfew and changing the rules right in the middle of a protest, they can do that. But they have to give them adequate opportunity to comply with those rules.
Let's hear it from Mr. Nelson and the Constitution. Instead of being released, the protesters were moved to the sheriff's office where they were issued misdemeanor citations for criminal trespass. That is a Class C misdemeanor. They were released at 9 o'clock this morning, 24 hours after they were first informed of that new curfew. Joining me now is one of the Occupy Nashville members arrested last night, 8th grade teacher Adam Knight. Mr. Knight, thanks for your time tonight.
Hey, thank you, Keith.
Were you surprised the police moved in? Did you think that at least they give you 24 hours or sometimes to adjust to this new curfew setup?
Honestly, I was surprised that they didn't move in earlier. They said that they were going to give us until tomorrow. That was their language. So tomorrow, to me, was 12 o'clock midnight. So I presumed that they would move in at 12:01 and take us out, but they waited until 3.
The response that we just played at the office of the night court commissioner, has that been the highlight of this experience for you, to hear him say that?
I mean, it's good to see that we have that legal backing. I mean, he claimed that there was no legal basis for them to arrest or detain us. After he made that decision, they held us for another 4 hours in holding cells, and then they moved us into a parking garage. So we were held there.
I said this at the beginning of the segment. Every time it looks like the municipalities and the police, no matter where we're talking about, whether it's Nashville or Oakland, every time it looks like they're settling down and appreciating what it is you're doing, what it is you're trying to do for them in particular, that somebody gets the bright idea that this thing can be stopped by force or by midnight raids or whatever you have. Is that your sense, too, that every step that somebody takes in government against you, in fact, works not just to galvanize those who are involved in the protest, but also really bring it to the public's attention that the wrong end of the equation here is the government's end of it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think galvanize is a good word. The poll in the Tennessean yesterday asking whether people believe that Occupy Nashville should be evicted from Legislative Plaza, it was overwhelmingly against eviction. 84% of people voting, claim that we should be allowed to stay there. So yeah, it galvanizes us, and it brings more people in because when governments start attacking the Constitution, that's always going to bring people.
Isn't it shocking to realize how many people think that the Constitution is meant to be interpreted as it is written for things like, say, protest, and how many people don't realize that there's been any kind of erosion about this? And we're not just talking about liberals or members of Occupy, but just anybody in the political equation who just sort of hangs around at the edges is suddenly discovering, guess what's happened to your rights in the last 30 years?
Oh, right. I mean, it's been beautiful just to even have that conversation started again, and to have people really willing to stand up and come out. You know, we had people come out last night that hadn't been out before. You know, and we welcomed them with open arms. They found out what we were about, and you know, they're there to stand for something. And you know, just like I saw Michael Moore say earlier on the clip that you played, you know, they're not looking at Dancing with the Stars anymore. They see that you know, democracy has to be fought for, and you have to stand up for your constitutional rights. And people are finally willing to wake up to that fact again.
I understand one of your own students was present last night during that arrest. How have your students and their parents reacted to your involvement in Occupy Nashville and the movement overall?
Well, I mean, it's been heartwarming to me. You know, I told my students before I went out there Thursday that there was a good chance that I would be arrested, and I didn't want them to think that I was doing something wrong if they heard that Mr. Knight had been arrested, you know. So my student came out, and his parents were there, and his father told me, you know, thank you for teaching my son to stand up for what's right, and that, you know, that was fantastic to me. They stayed there right until the bitter end. You know, as we were sitting down, locking arms, the police started to come to get us. I see all three of them as they're walking away saying thank you. You know, and that's beautiful. I went after I got out this morning. I went to school, and I saw my kids. You know, they were watching me on live stream last night. A little too late at 10:30. I told them you need to be in bed and doing your homework. But you know, I was met, and it was beautiful today. You know, I mean, it was really fantastic to see those kids, because I try and tell them all the time that in 4 years they're going to be 18 and in this world. You know, so they kind of have to start realizing what's going on, and they're not teaching that on the Jersey Shore.
What happens next for Occupy Nashville relative to Legislative Plaza and the rest of the protest?
Well, you know, we're going to move forward. We're going to stay at Legislative Plaza. When we got released today, we marched right back up to Legislative Plaza, and that's where we intend to stay. You know, Governor Bill Haslam has said that he will send out state troopers again tonight, and if he does that, you know, we're prepared to be there.
Adam Knight, the 8th grade teacher, member of Occupy Nashville, indeed teaching his students in a way that most teachers don't get a chance to, but perhaps should. Great, thanks for your time and for what you did. Take care.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Keith. Thank you.
The occupiers are, of course, comic to some on the right. How one of conservatism's most notorious fools has dismissed Sergeant Shamar Thomas. Ahead here on Countdown.